what started to happen, like probably a year ago, that bar I was talking about, it started to flash. It was like a white flash, like a strobe light. And it was strange, but it was only when the computer was sitting idle, which is a lot of the time, right? So it would just flash. So I literally had like a little piece of cloth I would put over that bar to hide that. And I would even have to do it when I took the laptop to if I was at a client site, and I'm having a meeting, I would have to put that on there because I might have my laptop open. It actually just happened recently. I forgot my little towel I put on it. So I had to actually keep the laptop closed most of the time because it's very distracting. It was literally a strobe light. And I did some research on it. I think it's related to the battery. I think over time the battery expands, and I would have to assume it's probably around that area and was pressing on that and probably messed it up. So, but I never used that bar anyway. So that was the main reason. Also that the fan was constantly starting to run. It was running all the time. The performance was clearly being impacted.
Before we jump into this episode, please subscribe to this podcast, hit that notification bell if you're on YouTube, and after a listen, please give us a thumbs up, like, and share, if we've earned it. With your help, we can reach more people and deliver these valuable From the Trenches lessons to those that need it. Enjoy the episode.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another The Builders. Today, it is a solo episode with yours truly, Matt Levenhagen. Today, we are going to talk about tech, about specifically the computer we use in our business. So, as we all do, even when I have guests on this podcast, we talk from stories. We share from the trenches what we're doing, why we're doing those things, what lessons we can pull from that, or we just share and you can figure out how you learn from it. We learn from stories. And today's story is basically why I ended up getting a new MacBook Pro and why I chose things like the M3 Pro chip, what that thought process was, and kind of, just talk about that thought process and how I landed there and what I had before and what I liked about what I had before, why I might have made the decision I did to go with the MacBook Pro, and then how I want to go kind of dig into how I use it in my agency specifically. I run a web design and development agency. I run a team of around 10 people and that are international. And so they're on other parts of the world. And then I have clients all over the place. I do have partners all over the place, and some locally, some in the U.S. someplace. And so I run kind of what you might call a global business, right? From the comfort of this seat. In this same seat, I run my business. I'm actually positioned differently, though. I'm looking over here because this is my main monitor over here. We could talk about my setup for a second. So I have the laptop here in front of me. That's what I'm recording on. I have the camera and everything right there. Then I have another monitor right here, like in the corner. I'm in the corner. My desk is kind of in a corner. I have a monitor in the corner, and then to my right, I should probably describe this since some of you are listening by audio only. On my right, I actually, if I would swivel about, what is that? 90 degrees. This is where my actual keyboard is, mouse and everything, and that's where I mainly work. So I don't actually work in front of my laptop, my MacBook Pro. I don't actually work in front of it. It's over here. So most of my work is actually done on a Apple keyboard and Apple mouse. So that's kind of interesting, right? But when I take the laptop elsewhere, obviously I'm working on that laptop. If I'm traveling or if I'm at a meeting at a client or partner agency, whatever. So that's kind of my general setup right? So I work on a laptop. I don't actually have a PC or a full iMac or whatever you call them, like an actual computer. I have the laptop. I run my whole business on it, have been for years. So with that, let's dig into we'll start with the decision process and what that kind of looks like. What am I looking for in a computer? And for me, for what I do, I certainly am in the web design space. So I have to be ready, even though I manage like I'm the founder, the CEO of this agency. I'm actually still a web designer. So I still work with graphics. I still jump in the code sometimes. I still, I certainly am pulling stuff down. I won't get too technical, using, we have Git repositories, code out there that I pull down to my desktop and work on locally. And so I have to have editors, and I have to have IDEs, integrated development environments. I have to have software like Photoshop and Illustrator and things like that to work with graphics. I have video software, even to edit this podcast, right? So my business, I'm actually running an agency, but I also have this podcast. I have to think about those things as well. How am I marketing myself and what content am I creating? So I have to take all those things into consideration and make sure that I choose a solution, a computer that is going to support that. Now, of course, I'm not going to talk too much about budget today. For me, you can go out, you can actually get a pretty robust PC for what, $500? I don't know. Probably better deals. You could probably run a whole business on that for years as well. There's a lot of great computers that are budget friendly. MacBook Pros specifically are not so much budget friendly if you're on a low budget. For me, I feel like what happened to me, why I ended up with Macs, is when I grew up back in the 80s, so I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but in the 80s, I grew up around Apple. My family actually had computers all through like school and stuff when they came out. Apple II, I think, was our first one. Apple IIe, Apple IIgs. I don't know why I remember those names to this day, but we had those growing up. So I really, that's my first experience with computers. But then for a couple decades, up until from about, 90s through late 90s through like 2015, I think. No, 2016, I think. I had PCs. I still technically have a PC, but for my business and my craft, what I do day to day in my career and business, I had a PC. But I was working for a company called Rapid Crush, and there was a new CEO that came into play, and I don't know if he was the catalyst here. I think it was him and probably one of the founders, or maybe both, maybe everybody, maybe the whole leadership team, decided for whatever reason that they wanted everyone to be using MacBooks. They wanted to create an Apple culture, I guess. And so I didn't have a choice in the matter. They sent me one in the mail. So I'm working at home, and I got my MacBook sent to me. They actually gave me a mic and the whole setup, the keyboard and all that stuff. So there I am. I guess I'm going to learn how to use an Apple computer now again. So for the next couple of years I worked there. I was on a MacBook Pro. End of 2018, I left the company because they got out of the WordPress business, which is my main thing there, right? And so I left the company, but they took my MacBook back. I tried to keep it. Can I keep this? But they wanted it back. So I sent it back in the mail. And now I could have gone back to my old PC. Actually, it's a pretty nice PC. It's a gaming PC. But I had fallen in love with the Mac for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the feel. I don't know if it's I do design and development, and I like a lot of, from a technical perspective, how the Mac operates in those environments. I don't know if it was the laptop part of it. I knew I was going to need something portable. I could get another, I could get a PC, laptop, but I decided, nah, I'm going to take some of the money that I had set aside and buy myself a new MacBook Pro. So I got I think it was a 2018 MacBook Pro. The one with the bar. Now, if you know about MacBooks, I don't know if you do or not, but there was an extra bar actually above the keyboard, like a toolbar that's graphical, separate from the actual screen. And so it's a separate screen with things that I never used. I never used it. And part of it is because how I'm set up, because I don't even look at the laptop, but I'm sure some people use it, but they don't have it on here on the new one, probably for a reason. Anyway, so I got the new MacBook Pro, and that's when I started my agency, and started by doing a lot more. I was doing most of the development, obviously, in the beginning, and design. And as time went on, I did more and more of the business side of things and running teams and all that. But the MacBook did its job. Did an awesome job for those years. And again, it's portable. It allows me, I can take it wherever I need to go. Does a great job with that. Life is good. But as all devices go, eventually they're going to fry. Or there's something that's going to happen where you're going to eventually have to get a new computer. And really, I think I remember complaining for a few years. I'm like, the problem with the MacBook or, a computer like this is it's never going to die, and I'm never going to have a good excuse to get a new computer. If it just continues to work and I'm able to run my business, I'm good to go, right? But what happens is, though, especially like Apple products, even your iPhone and stuff, eventually the software continues to develop and grow and expand and the capabilities and all that stuff. And eventually it starts to grind because you're still on the same hardware you were 5 years ago. And so the performance of things slow down. But there was actually a physical problem with my MacBook Pro. What started to happen, like probably a year ago, that bar I was talking about, it started to flash. It was like a white flash, like a strobe light. And it was strange, but it was only when the computer was sitting idle, which is a lot of the time, right? So it would just flash. So I literally had like a little piece of cloth I would put over that bar to hide that. And I would even have to do it when I took the laptop to, if I was at a client site, and I'm having a meeting, I would have to put that on there because I might have my laptop open. It actually just happened recently. I forgot my little towel I put on it. So I had to actually keep the laptop closed most of the time because it's very distracting. It was literally a strobe light. And I did some research on it. I think it's related to the battery. I think over time the battery expands, and I would have to assume it's probably around that area, and was pressing on that and probably messed it up. So, but I never used that bar anyway. So that was the main reason. Also that the fan was constantly starting to run. It was running all the time. The performance was clearly being impacted. So that's kind of so what am I trying to solve, right? I'm solving that. I'm solving that visual problem, but also the performance is starting to slow. Performance is really important to me. It's just like a website, right? We have a website. This is a kind of a related, it'll make sense. So we have a client that has a pretty sizable business e-commerce store, and their admin area, WordPress admin area, was slowing down. And so it was, instead of taking a few seconds to load a page in admin, like orders and stuff, it would take 30 seconds to a minute. we figured out the problem. It was a particular plugin they had. But the problem was communicated to me, not that this is like just an issue. It was impacting their support department. They have like I said, pretty sizable. So they're like, I think they have 20, I want to say they have like 20 support people manning this thing 24/7 probably. So, but they go into that. They use the WordPress admin to look at orders and process things or whatever. And make admin notes and do all that stuff in there. Look at customer stuff. But every time they go in there, now they got to wait 30 seconds or a minute. And they're doing a lot of stuff. There's sales coming in every hour, right? So that was the impact. It had a ripple effect, and they couldn't be as efficient on their end. So it's the same thing with the computer, right? If I am now waiting for things to load, things crash, or you can't multitask as well, your productivity is going to be impacted. So that was something I was solving. So it's the better performance. Battery isn't really a huge consideration for me, even though obviously it's probably better in my new MacBook because I have mine plugged in all the time. So it really works like a PC. It sits on my desk most of the time over here, and I'm over there on my right. And there, yeah. So that is the thing. But the multitasking, like that performance part of it, that piece, is probably for me the most critical piece. When I'm working, I have multiple screens, right? I have multiple screens and I have multiple things up. I might have several different browsers open, and I have different browser profiles because I have partners, right? So I might have an agency profile, and I do that for a reason, because, I might screen share or whatever with their clients and all this stuff, but I want to have a separate looking browser for that, and with different links and things like that. So I might have that open. I have my own open, maybe multiple, and then dozens of tabs. That's one thing, but I also might have Photoshop open. I might also have a video thing open. I might be uploading a video while that's happening, I'm in ClickUp on my browser, going through tasks my team has out there. So I'm always multitasking. I might be chatting at the same time. I'm doing that. And also, I got a message in Slack. I'm going to go in. I'm going to, so all of that is happening. So I definitely multitask. It's not a bad type of multitask. There's obviously there's this anti-multitask out there, but there's certain scenarios where you do, right? If things are automated or things are happening, or when you're running an agency, you're going to task switch as little as possible, but it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm waiting for something from a teammate or a client. It gets there. I need to make sure I get that to where it needs to go, or they're working on something. They need my attention right away. I'm going to have to. That's just, it's a pipe dream to think that you're never going to multitask. And to be efficient and be productive, you're going to have to do it once in a while. Anyway, but from a software perspective, that's for sure a thing. So I think that's the biggest thing for that. Now, again, the old MacBook Pro, super reliable, especially for those first few years. But as things grow, you add more stuff, more things you're doing, and I grew out of it. The battery expansion thing was a bad thing, overall slowdown. So the transition or the decision, let's go there first. So the decision on which MacBook Pro to get. Now, I kind of knew. I was very happy when you have a laptop that, actually I still have it here. I'm going to keep this. I'm going to frame it and put it on the wall. It's kind of like that first dollar, when you got a business like a bar or something, that first dollar they made, they frame it, they put it on. I'm going to frame my first agency MacBook Pro. I might actually do that. But it did, did do well, and I like the MacBook. I like as an environment and how the MacBook Pro is built. The security seems better. It's there's a lot of aspects to just how the MacBooks look and feel, and how the design of it just works. PC, it doesn't. You know, one of the things the MacBook Pro doesn't, or MacBook doesn't do, it does it all, just randomly reboot. Anyway, so, but I was just happy with it. There was nothing in my brain that said I better look at a different type of computer. I just wanted to replace the computer I had with a better version of it and keep moving. And so this is the thing with when you're running a business, right? If you're listening to this, you're probably running a business, but you don't have time to linger. So you have to have this. If something like this happens, a tech problem happens, we can call this a tech problem, right? And I need to switch over to a new computer. That has to happen fairly quick. My business is not going to pause. My clients' requests are not going to pause. My team's work is not going to pause for Matt to spend a few days getting a new computer. So what did I do? It was like a weekend. I went and got this computer. And I think it was that first Monday, I spent half the day starting with all the critical things. And the critical things are going to be things like Zoom, right? In case I have to do a Zoom call. Slack, of course. One of the critical first things was my password manager, 1Password. 1Password actually is one of the most important first things, because most of my time is spent in the browser, going from, ClickUp to, different services, websites, and all this stuff. And what do I need to do when I go to all these places? I have to log in. So the password manager, with auto login and stuff like that, just with a click of a button, that's really important. I don't have all that in my head. So that solves a lot of the problems right out of the gates. So there were certain critical pieces like that I installed, got working right away. And so I started with the things that I thought were going to be, allow me to start using this new computer as soon as possible. And so that's really it. So what I tried to do that first day was just literally, okay, what do I need to do this task? What do I need? I'm literally working while I'm setting up the new computer. And then I got to myself to a point where all the stuff I use on a daily basis that I definitely need are installed and working, right? So now, over the next week, and this was about 2 Mondays ago, so I don't know, a couple weeks ago, like 2 weeks ago, less than that. We'll say 12 days, 10 days. So what I did is I got everything to that point, and then there's certain software that you only use periodically, right? And that stuff was, kind of on the back burner. And I still had the old laptop, so I could open that up if I needed to and work. So like one of the things that wasn't most critical, even maybe in the first day or two, was my editors and, for code and managing code stuff. So, but I knew that I could jump into the old laptop and do those things if I needed to. But over the next week, I just started installing more and more stuff until it was like last weekend, I think, 5 or 6 days in. Then I sat down on that weekend for hours just to absolutely install everything else and then fully extract myself from MacBook Pro, delete everything I don't need on the old MacBook Pro anymore, because all the files have been moved over. And we'll talk about more about, I'm going to go through kind of my app list as to how I manage things. But I, just everything was finally on my new MacBook. So to a point where I would not have to worry about that at all. From my code editors to my, to all the software that I use or could potentially use. There's software that I use only periodically, but it has to be there when I'm doing something. So, and that's, and then optimizing that all. So there was certain scenarios, certain tools that I had installed on the old MacBook that I didn't need to install on the old MacBook that I didn't need to install on the new MacBook. For example, Miro. Miro is kind of mind mapping software. For a number of years, I paid for that, but I haven't used it for the last year or so since I moved over to ClickUp. ClickUp has its own mind mapping, although it's terrible, but I realized I don't need to be paying for this extra thing. So I had stopped using it. And I could get it and whatever. I left that behind. I just don't have it. One of the decisions, I think there was a way for me to actually sync everything just to the new laptop. There was a function to do that, but I didn't want to do that. I did not. It would have saved me maybe time, but I want to install everything from scratch. So I'm making those decisions now. I can back up settings per app and move those in, but not the whole thing. I don't want all the files. I want to go through. I literally want as clean of an install as possible. And I actually found out in one or two cases that where I was behind. I think it was PHP. Yeah, PHP Storm. It's the IDE I used for remote work. Remote websites, if I'm FTPing and SFTPing and all that good stuff, whatever. I'm working remotely. I use PHP Storm, or for random stuff like that. My local development, I use VS Code, but I realized I was like 2 years behind. I had like 2022, and I have a yearly renewal. I'm like, why don't I have the newest version? So that was, I upgraded that. So that was actually a really good thing that happened there. So got all that, handled. So left a few things behind, made sure I configured things, improved configurations, things that I hadn't looked at for a long time. And I took a little extra time to look at this particular software or app or whatever and configure it. So I went through that process, and now I'm in a really beautiful state. And one of the things that I ended up spending a considerable amount of time on was exactly what, if you're on video, looking at right now. If you're on YouTube, this, or actually Spotify. Spotify has video too, right? I don't know. You tell me. But video. So like I said before, you have to look at your business like, what do I need to run my business? What do you do on a day-to-day basis, week-to-week basis? And one of the things that I do is create video in a couple different types of video, but a big part of it is this podcast. This is like my big priority for the content side of my business. And so I have to be able to record video and look decent. Well, I was excited because the new MacBook Pros have a better camera. For whatever reason, the 2018 had, 720, 780, 720p? 720. Yeah, 720p, I think. It had like a terrible camera. And I don't know why. Like, you'd think like Apple would have the best. Like, look at the iPhone. Look how much time they spend on these cameras in the iPhone. So anyway, I was excited. I'm like, whoa! They probably improved the software and configurations and all that. No. So I look better. I had a better resolution. But there's still no control. And one of the biggest controls for me, believe it or not, like, I don't even care so much about, how I look is how I look, right? Like the colors and all that stuff, great. I want to look normal. But Zoom. I actually, because of how I'm set up in this room, there's only a portion of the wall I want to show you. There's a door over here and there's another door over there. I don't want to show you doors. I want to show you this wall behind me. And I want to be positioned in a certain place. So I'm actually a bit further back from my desk, probably about 3 feet from the laptop. But out of the box, it's showing like my whole back wall, the doors, everything. And I couldn't zoom. I checked out other apps that can help me with this. Some, I think, had the ability to control it, but it didn't work with every app. There's new, and I kind of glanced at this stuff, so I don't know 100%. But I think like Zoom or others, let's see, I use Zoom and Google Meet and Riverside pretty much and Slack's huddles. Those are the things I use, but not all of them. For some reason, they kind of block the ability for these apps to modify them video. Some technical thing. It didn't work in every case. I need it to work in every case. So I ended up actually going back to I have a Logitech. It's a really nice 4K Logitech webcam. So I put that back in. I'm able to use that with a piece of software called G Hub, and I'm able to do my Zoom and it controls everything, and it's great. And I don't know if it's because it gets ahead of, I don't know the technical reason, but it works. This is what I had before. Here we are. I was hoping I was going to be able to save a piece of software. I wouldn't have to have that anymore, but here I am. But that's fine. But those are things I had to figure out. That was a huge, 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 huge priority for me. Because again, it's not just this podcast. It might be other random videos I create, but I have a lot of meetings. I have meetings with clients, with partners, with prospects, with just networking stuff. So I have to have as much control as possible. And here we are. So that was a big hurdle for me, but we got over it. And now I'm happy. And here we are. So that. Did I have any other, I'm trying to think if I had any other issues like that. I think for the most part, everything else went pretty darn smooth. Like today, whatever it is, 10 days in. Today I am running my whole business on this. It's flying like it's never flown before. There is this, and I've noticed things like I didn't notice things was a big part of it. The fan never runs. I don't have flashing lights. But the other thing that was wild, so this is something that was a semi-impact depending on the situation, but I didn't realize it was a problem. And that was uploading video. Now I have a really, really fast internet speed here. I got cable, and it's Spectrum, and it's as fast, almost as fast as you can get. So that's not a problem. Internet stuff in my house is not a problem. In my office is not a problem. But when I would do a video, so most of my podcasts are 45 minutes to an hour. When I would do that, when I would do an upload, so first of all, I edit it. I use Camtasia still. I've looked at other Premiere and stuff, but I still use Camtasia. I've been using Camtasia for 15, 20 years, so that's why. But I export it. It takes a while to export. I don't even know, 30 minutes, whatever. But then upload, it would take like an hour. If I would have to upload to my podcast platforms, there's one place I upload for that, and then YouTube. And doing them both at the same time, I would have to decide which one I would do first because I didn't want them competing. So what was the priority? But I did So it would literally take, depending on the length of the episode, would take an hour or more. And so if I was behind and I had to get, like I say, I try to get all that uploaded before Monday when they launch, when they publish. If I didn't do that, then it would be late, midday before I would even be able to publish, because even if I started when I got up, it would take hours for me to do all that. So, but what happened was I uploaded this past week, and it uploaded in 10, 15 minutes because I got a new laptop. I didn't even know that was a problem. So now I know, well, even if it happens on a Monday morning, it's going to go much faster. But even on the weekends and stuff, I can actually work and get things done a lot faster, which means that's a sign that everything else is going to be faster. So that's a large one, but even from a micro perspective, things are going to be flying a lot faster. Again, multitasking is really, really important for me. That is why. So the MacBook Pro has multiple chips. So there's just your regular chip, I think, and then there's the MacBook Pro, the M3. They're M3s. So the newer chips are M3, M3 Pro, and then M3 Max. And I wanted to make sure I chose one that would be as powerful as possible for multitasking and do the things I do, light kind of video editing and working with that stuff. But I didn't think I had to go Max, because Max, it's more expensive. I'm a little budget conscious. But I mean, I could have just thrown the money at it, but I didn't think, but I'm also practical. If I don't think I need it, that's for somebody, from what I was reading, it was they're doing 3D animations and all this hardcore stuff. I'm not. And then I thought, well, I'm kind of running my business on this old computer, so I don't need that much of an upgrade. So, but I settled on the Pro because I thought it would, again, the multitasking and performance I thought would be solid for what I needed. And then I did, in terms of what did I get for memory? I got 36 gig memory, just a little bit extra boost there as well. And that's about all the thought that went into it. This is not a hard hitting tech program here. I'm not going into the real, details. I'm all about business, right? I need results. I need to know that it just works. And guess what? It just works. So that's kind of it though. So that's why I decided the MacBook Pro. I considered everything that I do. I looked at the performance, multitasking. Those are the important things. And it's delivered. It's worked great. I haven't heard a fan at all. It's flying. I almost feel like it's the transition, because it wasn't a different computer and it's all pretty much the same setup I had before, was pretty seamless. It's I missed a step. And going back to that's important. If you're running a business, you gotta switch as quickly as possible. You can't get bogged down and I realized something. It was interesting because this is my first computer change since I started this agency. I realized I really have refined what I use and what I need on a laptop to run my business. I realized there's not a lot of fat there. There's not a lot of extra stuff that I need. But I have everything essentially that from running my teams to communications to, working with code, working with graphics, all that stuff's there. And, I'm good. And so when I transitioned from the old computer, I had all that kind of figured out. So when it was an easy move to the new computer, it's the same computer, the same operating system, right? Same basic layout. It's going to have more new features and stuff, but for the most part, it was seamless. It's good. And we're here and we're recording a podcast. So the last thing I want to kind of go through is, besides, the performance and everything like that, like I said, going through what I use and, what apps I left behind, what I need on a day-to-day basis. I spend a lot of time, like I said, in the browser. There's services I use, like, ClickUp, and then there's development services, and there's things that are web-based that we just work in there. But even ChatGPT, as a browser, desktop-based application, only for Apple Silicon though. That was just a bonus. I was very happy. They actually came out with this desktop app, but you couldn't do it with the old Intel chips, and yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Anyway, so what I'm going to go through, I'm this is for those who want to hang around and hear what a web design and development agency needs and uses. I'm going to touch on some security stuff, how I back things up and things as well. I'm not going to go through every single app, just the ones that are unique probably to my business. Like, I'm not going to talk about the App Store, Safari. I have the different browsers. Like, I actually do have 3 browsers. I have Safari, Firefox, and Chrome. Those are the 3 main browsers, only because I'm a developer. I need to be able to see all those. I do use Browser Stack and stuff to do browser testing and all that, but I need those browsers because if I need to check something specific and just to have them. So yeah, let's go through it. Again, a lot of these are default things, like you got your maps, messages. I'm looking to the right. If you're on video, I'm looking to the right because I have my screen over there. That's where I'm looking at all my apps. So podcasts, music, even though I actually use Alexa I don't want to say it too loud, for my music. Let's see, news, dictionary, calculator, freeform, which I don't use, clock, Siri, and then we have the systems. Wow, that's like the whole first thing. Now we get to the 1Password. So 1Password, again, that's how I manage all my logins and anything that I need to protect, where there's privacy stuff related to it. I can't share client information. Like, I don't want you to have my client's server access, that type of thing, or keys or API stuff or whatever. So again, I think actually this is interesting because I think I'm looking at the apps and I think it's possible they're kind of in order here. Maybe not. So Chrome I had to install, Dropbox. It might be in order of how I install them to a degree. Dropbox, huge, because we use Dropbox for a bunch of our client stuff, and then people share things with us in Dropbox. So we have to have Dropbox, even though we have Google Workspace and Drive. We're in Dropbox quite a bit, so we actually use both for storage. It is what it is. You got to be flexible in my business. Loom, where I do daily, I'm using Loom. That's where I do all my screen shares and recording specifically for my team, but sometimes for clients as well, to run through something or to talk to like some tasks being done or, development, web design, all that stuff. So that's Loom, or going through an interface of some kind, even ClickUp stuff, if I need to show somebody how to do something, whatever, my VAs or whatever. So that Snagit. So Snagit is an interesting one. Also, those of you on video, I don't know why, but my nose itches today. So if you see me itching my nose a lot, I'm trying to be as discreet as possible, but I don't know if someone's talking about me or what's going on today. It's a personal problem, though. Just ignore that. Snagit. Snagit is a TechSmith product. I've used, again, with Camtasia. I installed both of those. I use Camtasia for video editing. And for a lot of my video editing, even for my podcast. But I've used Snagit because Camtasia is also TechSmith, so I use both. And they're just reliable. I've used them for 15, 20 years. It is what it is. Snagit is more about screenshots. And it has, I actually use it for more than that. Sometimes I take a screenshot and I want to mock it up or like, circle things, highlight things or whatever. I do that a lot when I'm communicating with my team to bring attention to something and then speak to that when I drop it in wherever. But so I use Snagit pretty much daily. Camtasia at least weekly. So Zoom, of course, Slack, of course. Slack is our team. Not only our team, but we actually connect with some other companies in there and in agencies. So there's either in their accounts or there's a way to connect accounts. So Slack is a huge part of our communication. Visual Studio Code, VS Code, coding. I'm a techie. So yeah, usually local development and stuff like that, or anything code related on my desktop. Adobe Photoshop, Adobe Acrobat, Adobe Illustrator. There's other Adobe products that I haven't installed yet. Probably Premiere will eventually get installed. Adobe XD, okay, so this is one of them I kind of left behind. So we moved over to Figma this past probably 6 months to a year. This past year, we moved over to Figma. And for a long time, I thought about it. And we moved over to Figma because we would get stuff from clients for Figma. So we could work in there. But it was like my whole thing was Adobe. Like we have Creative Suite. We're using Adobe. We never went back. So everything we're doing is Figma now. So it is what it is. But maybe eventually I'll have to put Adobe XD in there too. But Logitech G-Hub, that's for my, also for my, it controls this guy here. I'm pointing to my mic, my blue mic. So that does that, and then the webcam. Then I have Riverside Studios desktop, but I'm not using it right now because I'm not sure I need to. I like the web-based. So Alfred 5. Alfred is an app for the Mac. I don't think there's a PC version. It adds functionality to create shortcuts, to automate things, and on the Mac. And I use it a lot for like snippets. Even Lipsum, like placeholder text. I have some shortcuts to drop, a paragraph, 2 paragraphs, 3 paragraphs of Lipsum automatically in a couple, boom. I used to have to go to the website, copy it, paste it. Now I got a shortcut for that. But Alfred is just to automate things. PHP Storm, development, transmit, development. I use that for quick connecting with FTP or whatever. Kaleidoscope is a weird one, right? Kaleidoscope is actually a comparison tool. It's a code thing. It's a design thing. It's to compare. I can look at code A and code B, compare the two and see where the differences are, and it highlights them. It comes in handy periodically. I don't use it as much right now, but there are times I use it a lot. So depends on what we're working on. iTerm is just for a council to do techie things. MAMP Pro, actually, that is for my local development. ChatGPT, again. So this is now desktop for me. I actually use it more than I thought I would, but the reason why is because you create a shortcut. And so literally one tap of my keyboard, I'm talking to ChatGPT. And then it opens up the app after you hit enter. The first prompt opens up the app, and then you can do all the normal things. I've learned today you can paste into the prompt, the first prompt that pops up. That's super handy because Alfred, I didn't get too much into Alfred, but Alfred has a shortcut and does all my searching, finding things as well. It's similar to the default search function in Macs. But it's more robust. You can even do you can do a lot of stuff with it. You can do commands in there, and you can do all kinds of things. So I have that in one, and then I have ChatGPT at my fingertips. It's a beautiful thing. Eventually, when their chat gets better, I was actually chatting I was using the audio. I'm going to go down a rabbit hole if I start talking about ChatGPT. Source tree. That's a visual kind of Git thing to manage code. That helps me. I'm a visual person, so I like to use it to review my team's code, and also for like our product plugins. That's where I update versioning or check for things, whatever, merge things, do all that stuff. NordVPN, when I am traveling, I'm either on vacation on the weekend or anywhere else. I use NordVPN to protect the privacy, and it updates the IP, and can't track. It's NordVPN. Check it out. This is not an ad. Go get it. So Clean My Mac X. So Clean My Mac X is it monitors everything on my laptop. It's always going, and it can help me. It's the easier interface to like clean things up. It'll notify you if your memory is getting too high. That's one of the things with the MacBook. I decided not to get the one. I got with a 500 and let me think. The terabyte? Is it 1 terabyte? Let's see. MacBook Pros. Let's see. I'm going to look it up right now. MacBook Pro memory gigs. Let's see. Yeah, there's a 1 terabyte drive. You can get 4 terabyte drive, I think. I just got the 500 and whatever. I don't know why. See, this is like I said, this is not the channel if you want somebody that's really got a good memory. So no, it's 300 gig, 500, whatever it is. 500 and some, 564. I don't know what it is. Gig memory. It's kind of low because I do hit up against that quite a bit. Because especially with the video stuff that I do. So that is, it's not necessarily a good thing. But I figure I can use a card or, like a memory card or whatever and plug that in if I need to at some point. I may do that. A lot of my stuff is cloud. So I just push it up into cloud with Dropbox. I don't save. Dropbox is nice because you can just keep it on the cloud. And let me go back here. But Clean My Mac will alert me if I'm getting up against that limit, and then I can go in. I can actually see the largest files. I can see there's some built-in functionality with the Mac that can do this, but it's just a nicer interface and just handles it all. And and that's it. That's the biggest reason I have that. Backblaze is how I back up my Mac. And we're like, well, you got Dropbox. Why don't you just use that? Backblaze is like everything else. Dropbox, I try to keep to just things that are client, work related, and specific. And Backblaze catches everything else. So if I dropped some files somewhere on my desktop, it's going to catch it. So, and then I could restore. So everything on my Mac is backed up automatically in the background. Then I have CodeKit, which is another techie thing that I sometimes use. Then I have all my Microsoft stuff. So I do have to open up Excel spreadsheets and use Word and in certain circumstances. Even though I use Google Workspace and Google Docs and spreadsheets as much as possible, I sometimes still, especially when I'm doing accounting stuff, I'm usually just using Microsoft stuff. It's like $99 a year for 365. So yeah, so I'm chintzy on some things, but I've always had Microsoft, so I feel like I gotta have it. So Microsoft, so Excel and Word, and I have it automatically installed PowerPoint and Outlook and Teams Classic and OneNote. So I'm wondering if I should just uninstall those, but if they're not hurting anything, I'll leave them. Then I got the Microsoft Defender. I don't know if that's active. It's weird. Okay. Firefox. Adobe XD. Oh, I did install it. Oh, and I did install Premiere. Oh, I did that later. forgot I installed those. Actually, one of the other Adobe products I installed was Adobe Bridge. It's a nice interface to manage images and stuff like that and optimize them or do things with them. Image Optim. So this is literally, so if you look at my MacBook, you're not going to see a single icon anywhere on any of my screens, on any of my monitors. There's no icons. I do everything with shortcuts or just a quick search. But there's one app that I do have the icon on my desktop, and that's Image Optim, because I can drag an image, drop it on that icon, and it optimizes it. It optimizes images, cleans them up, makes the files smaller. So that's literally the only thing. Then I have Skype. The only reason I have Skype is I have a client, or actually a partner, who's got a system admin that uses Skype. So my team and I have to be in there. I most of the time have it closed. It's just on my phone, but if I have to, I open it up if we're doing something. And Notability is something that I use mostly on my iPad to take notes, and once in a while I like to open up here. That's literally it. That runs my entire business. Everything else is in the browser. My browser, of course, I use services like ClickUp. I have Google Workspace. I have Bard, which is Gemini now. A link to that. I have ChatGPT. I have HubSpot I use for kind of CRM. I have I got FreshBooks I use for my accounting. We have Zendesk for, those things. And then all the kind of marketing stuff. So everything else is web-based. So that is my setup. So I hope you found this interesting. You're probably running a different business than I am, right? Maybe there's some web developers and web designers watching this. I would hope so. But in fact, you probably are. But as an agency or as a business, you can see that my setup is not that complicated. All those things are needed. And yeah, it costs me money for some of these things. But it runs my business. There's certain things like the editors, like I'm not using PHP Storm every day, but when I need to connect to a remote and do it efficiently and quickly, I know that tool. And those of you on video, MacBook Pros now have this thing where when I do a thumbs up, it does an emoticon. So that's fun. It does other things too. I'm not going to show you right now. So I just did a thumbs up for those on audio, and this bubble came up with a thumbs up. It's weird. Okay. But there's things that I have that I have to know is there when I need it. Because I do in my business, I do some coding yet, but very little. Most of my 98% of the coding and work done in my business is done by my team now. And so I need to have the tools, the communication tools, the services, everything at my fingertips. And I need to be able to multitask. And going back to the biggest thing for me is that performance in multitasking. The ability to be working on some code, but then to switch and go to Slack to do some communication when somebody pops up or needs help with something. Because that, for me, again, people talk about multitasking and that's a bad thing. And for the most part it is, especially if you have a very narrow skill that you're deploying, right? Or role. Right? If you're just doing development, that becomes more important. If that's what you're doing every day, every hour of the day, you don't want to context switch all the time. But as the person running everything, I have to multitask. I have lots of things going on. And if it's a morning or it's a weekend and I'm uploading my podcast, at the same time I'm trying to do something else and work in the code or do communications, maybe go through ClickUp. I'm in the browser. I have days that I have multiple projects going for different clients. And so what I do is I'll have like a set of a browser open, a browser window open for one client and a browser window open for another project or client and maybe for another agency. and I keep those collections together, right? The tabs are all related to that. And then I have to keep that. So those things have to stay up. Videos running, all kinds of stuff is going on. So that was probably the biggest thing. But I also, as mentioned, I don't need overkill. I was conscientious. I want to say that word, but I didn't know if I could say it. I was really yeah, I could get the Max, but Matt, control yourself. You don't need it. But here's the other thing though too. I want this computer to last another 5 years. I'm happy if every 5 to 6 years I have to get a new MacBook Pro or laptop or computer, whatever. I'm okay with that, but it does have to last. If my iPhone, I replace it every 2 years. You want to stay up with that, but it could probably last longer. In this case, it's a larger investment, although iPhones aren't cheap either these days. But it's a larger investment, and you want to, even though I spent more on it, the quality of the product, MacBook Pros, and my particular setup, having run this agency for 5 years now and having refined everything I just went through, all my apps, how my browser set up. I haven't showed you my browser bar, the menu bar with all the icons and stuff. Many of those icons have been in that same spot for years. When I run my business, when I sit down in the morning and I open my laptop, well, I don't open it, it's always open. But when I fire up my laptop, I wake it up. I want to be able to go right to work. One of the first things I do in the morning is I open up Slack. I might even have opened it on my phone already. But communicating, what's my team doing? Do they need anything from me right now before they leave for the day or whatever? That's the first thing. But what's the next thing? Oh, I know where ClickUp is. I know where that icon is. Go in there. Go in this. I need to do some code. Boom. I know where the VS Code icon is. I say I don't have any icons on the desktop. I do have the bar at the bottom. So let me explain that real quick. I have my bar. I have my 3 browsers: Firefox, Safari, Chrome, Bitbucket, SourceTree. SourceTree. Bitbucket's the service we use for Git. VS Code, PHP Storm, Transmit, Mant Pro, iTerm, ChatGPT now, TextEdit. I use that for notes and random stuff. Slack. Those are the permanent ones. And then everything else is shortcuts. But I know where everything is though. Or I can do a quick shortcut and get it. I know what I have. I know what's there. I'm not thinking about that. That's all. It all happens unconsciously. It's the way a computer should be, it should be an extension of you. Kind of like your phone is probably now. You know where everything is. You got to take a camera, or you got to take a picture with your camera. You know exactly how to pull that up. You know exactly how to get a selfie in 2 seconds, don't you? Well, if you're young, anyway. You know where your Facebook icon is. You've probably had that Facebook icon in the same spot. Listen, my wife is really, she loves Facebook. She's on Facebook all the time. But I also know that she's very particular where things are on her phone in terms of icons. Because if I am in there helping her with something and I add an icon or I move an icon, she's all over it. She has to know exactly where things are. But it's the same way with the computer. Is it symbiotic? I'm just throwing a word out there. It might be it. I think a lot. I think advanced, but I can never come up with the right words. No, but you know what I mean. So it becomes an extension of you, kind of like we're all turning into cyborgs. The laptop or your computer is part of that. It's becoming an extension of you technologically. And that's So when you run your business, you're not thinking about, like you shouldn't have to think about how you get stuff done. You got to get something done. You should know exactly, without thinking about it, what app you're pulling up and how you're getting it done. So I think that's all I wanted to cover. I know it's been a long one. We're at an hour already, at least. I guess what's the conclusion? What's the takeaway? What do I want you to take away from this? Again, it's about story. Sharing the story, how I got from point A to point B, making this transition. Like I did with the episode about transitioning project management systems from Trello to ClickUp. I know that was a really popular episode because I have to assume that there's a lot of agencies or companies that are going through that same problem. This was a problem. Tech is going to get old. It's going to have problems eventually. It's not going to last forever. But when you rely on it as heavily as I do or what you do as with your business, it's important to have a good process to move that over. And I went through that process today. It's semi-sloppy, but again, if you got everything figured out, where everything needs to be, you're golden. Like I remember, I'll leave you with this. I remember one extra thing that was, I was stumped with. This was actually a little bit of a problem for me for a minute, besides the video problem. I'm like, why can I not find my Bluetooth? Because I wanted to connect. I was having a problem connecting. I use usually when I need to hear things, using my earbuds. I can't think of words today. The things you put in your ears was not connecting. Well, it would connect, but then it would disconnect. I couldn't figure out why. It turned out the iPhone had auto connect on it, so I had to deactivate that. I forgot I needed to do that. But what was happening was auto connecting, but then I couldn't find the settings, so I kept having to go to this go to the physical settings and search for the Bluetooth until I figured out with a little Googling that there is a way to add it to your top bar. Because my top bar, there are certain things. I didn't go over my top bar. Let's not do that. But that was one thing. It was like, where is it? Because now I know that if I need to disconnect it or connect something, where's my Bluetooth settings? Got to know where stuff is so you don't have to think about it. And I'm not going to think about this anymore. I'm just going to say goodbye. You have a great one. I hope this was a good episode for you and you took something away from it. Thanks.
That's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Again, please subscribe if you haven't already and give us a thumbs up if we deserve it. Now a word from our sponsor, my agency, Unified Web Design. We build custom websites, features, we maintain websites, we work with agencies to fulfill their web design and development needs, and more. If you're interested in our services or are looking for an agency to work with as a partner to build awesome sites for your clients, feel free to reach out to me at unifiedwebdesign.com. There's a handy contact me link at the top. Fill out that form and it will open a ticket, and that ticket will find its way to me. Thanks for joining me today. We'll see you next time.